Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
Welcome back to According to Wikipedia with Bang and Dang. This week, since we are releasing this one day before Halloween, why not do the Wikipedia article on Halloween?
boo, listeners, boo.
Boo. Boo.
Boo, listeners. Boo.
And with that,
Look behind you, boo.
boo. I'm in your closet. Give us a subscription on our YouTube at Bang Dang Network, as well as if you're listening on the old podcast app, Spotify, Apple, give us a review and let us know how we're doing, or maybe some articles you want us to read for you.
Right, I mean, come on, man. Shit.
Or you can listen to our other shows, Outlaws and Gunslingers, Battles of the American Civil War, and others.
There's a lot of that.
There is a lot of others. Halloween.
Oh,
Or
Eve.
Halloween, or less commonly known as All Halloween, All Hallows Eve, or All Saints Eve, is a celebration observed in many countries on October 31st, which is the eve of the Western Christian Feast of All Saints' Day.
Right.
Begins the observation of All Hallowtide, the time in the liturgical year dedicated to remembering the dead, including saints, martyrs, and all the faithful departed.
That's mostly Mexican, I think. Mexico.
No, that's called Day of the Dead, and that's in May.
Oh, that's Day of the Dead.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, the word Halloween, Halloween comes from the Scottish form of All Hallows Eve, the evening before All Hallows Day. Even is the Scots term for eve or evening, and is contracted to Ian or Een. All Hallows Even became Halloween.
Right.
Okay.
Fantastic. Take a look at history, old Christian origins, and historic customs. Halloween is thought to have influences from Christian belief and practices. The English word Halloween comes from All Hallows Eve.
Did we establish that yet?
Yeah, we will do it 7 more times. This is being the evening before the Christian holy days of All Hallows Day or All Saints Day. Now, that is on November 1st, and All Souls Day on the 2nd of November. Since the time of the early church, major feasts in Christianity, such as Christmas, Easter, and Pentecost, had vigils that began the night before, as did the Feast of All Hallows. These 3 days are collectively called All Hallowtide, and are a time when Western Christians honor all saints and pray for recently departed souls who have yet to reach heaven.
Commemorations of all saints and martyrs were held by several churches on various dates, mostly in springtime. In 4th century Roman Edessa, it was held on 13th of May. On 13 May 609, Pope Boniface IV, Boniface.
So when these guys say Christians, they meant Catholic.
Pretty much. Rededicated the Pantheon in Rome to St. Mary and all martyrs. This was the date of Lumeria, an ancient Roman festival of the dead. In the 8th century, Pope Gregory III founded an oratory in St. Peter's for the relics of the holy apostles and of all saints, martyrs, and confessors. Some sources say it was dedicated on November 1st, while others say it was on Palm Sunday in April of 732.
Oh.
Either way.
By the year 1800, there is evidence that churches in Ireland and Northumbria were holding a feast commemorating all saints on the 1st of November. Alcuin of Northumbria, a member of Charlemagne's court, may then have introduced this November 1st date in the Frankish Empire. By the year of 835, it became the official date in the Frankish Empire. Some suggest this is due to the Celtic influence, while others suggest it was just a Germanic idea. Although it was claimed that both Germanic and Celtic-speaking peoples commemorated the dead at the beginning of winter. Well, winter's still a couple months away. Maybe not over there, right? They may have seen it as the most fitting time to do so.
I don't think back then they didn't have summer solstice and winter solstice and shit like that.
Or fall.
Right.
It was just hot and cold. They may have seen it as the most fitting time to do so, as it is a time of dying in nature. It is also suggested that the change was made on the practical grounds that Rome in summer could not accommodate the great number of pilgrims who flocked to it, and perhaps because of public health concerns over Roman fever, which claimed a number of lives during Rome's sultry summers.
Yeah, I bet. Nasty water, nasty place to live
Sick.
back in the day.
They're dirty, too.
By the end of the 12th century, the celebration had become known as the Holy Days of Obligation in Western Christianity and involved such traditions as ringing church bells for souls in purgatory. was also customary for criers dressed in black to parade the streets, ringing a bell of mournful sound and calling on all good Christians to remember the poor souls.
Oh, jeez.
The All Hallowtide custom of baking and sharing soul cakes for all christened souls has been suggested as the origin of trick-or-treating. The custom dates back to at least as far back as the 15th century and was found in parts of England, Wales, Flanders,
Flanders,
Bavaria, and Austria.
No shit. Look at that. Everybody thought it was just little scandies. Groups of poor people, often children, would go door to door during All Hallowtide, collecting soul cakes in exchange for praying for the dead, especially the souls of the giver's friends and relatives. This was called souling.
Good for them.
Soul cakes were also offered for the souls themselves to eat, or the soulers would act as their representatives.
Yeah, right. But I'm representing 20 souls this year.
As with the Lenten tradition of hot cross buns, soul cakes were often marked with a cross, indicating they were baked as alms. Shakespeare mentioned souling in his comedy, The Two Gentlemen of Verona.
Good for you, Shakespeare.
And that was in 1593.
While souling, the Christians would carry lanterns made of hollowed-out turnips, which could have originally represented souls of the dead. Jack-o'-lanterns were used to ward off evil spirits. On All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day during the 19th century, candles were lit in homes in Ireland, Flanders, Bavaria, and in Tyrol, where they were called soul lights that served to guide the souls back to visit their earthly homes.
Fantastic.
No thanks. Stay out of my house, buddy.
I wonder why all those horror movies and stuff usually happens over there.
And no wonder why.
Man, paranormal bullshit and all that's always on that side of the earth.
No wonder why every horror movie has like candles and shit.
Right. Jack-o'-lanterns for no reason.
Right. In many of these places, candles were also lit at graves on All Souls' Day. In Brittany, apparently that was the country, libations of milk were poured on the graves of kinfolk, or food would be left overnight on the dinner table for returning souls.
Oh, Santa.
A custom also found in Tyrol and parts of Italy.
No shit, huh? Wasting food.
All right.
Christian minister.
What happens if they get up and nobody eats it?
What if it happens they get up and it's gone?
Well, yeah, but I'm almost guaranteeing it never was gone unless somebody...
It was probably like the parents for Santa. They would get up in the middle of the night and eat it. I'm like, look, kids, your grandpa was here.
Sad thing is these adults were probably the ones that actually believed it.
Right. Christian minister Prince Sori Conte, he linked the wearing of costumes to the belief in vengeful ghosts. He says, it was traditionally believed that the souls of the departed wandered the earth until All Saints' Day, and All Hallows' Eve provided one last chance for the dead to gain vengeance on their enemies before moving to the next world. In order to avoid being recognized by any soul that might be seeking such vengeance, people would don masks or costumes. Cool. In the Middle Ages, churches in Europe that were too poor to display relics of martyred saints at All Hallowtide, they let parishioners dress up as saints instead. Like, why don't you just dress up as old Peter, bud? Some Christians observe this custom at Halloween today.
Okay. Leslie Bannatyne believes that this could have been a Christianization of earlier pagan custom. Was people dressing up. Many Christians in mainland Europe, especially in France, believe that once a year on Halloween, the dead of the churchyards rose for one wild, hideous carnival known as the Danse Macabre, which was often depicted in church decoration. Christopher Allman and Rosamond McKitterick wrote in the New Cambridge Medieval History that the Danse Macabre urged Christians not to forget the end of all earthly things.
Okay.
It was sometimes enacted in European village pageants and court masquerades, with people dressing up as corpses from various strata of society, and this may be the origin of Halloween costume parties.
I hate when they say may. In Britain, these customs came under attack during the Reformation as Protestants berated purgatory as a popish doctrine incompatible with the Calvinist doctrine of predestination. Damn. State-sanctioned ceremonies associated with the intercession of saints and prayer for souls in purgatory were abolished during the Elizabethan Reform, though All Hallows' Day remained in the English liturgical calendar. And they did that to commemorate saints as godly human beings, quote and unquote. For some nonconformist Protestants, the theology of All Hallows' Eve was redefined. There's like souls cannot be journeying from purgatory on their way to heaven, as Catholics frequently believe and assert. Instead, the so-called ghosts are thought to be in actuality evil spirits.
Maybe. Other Protestants believed in an intermediate state known as Hades, or the bosom of Abraham, in some localities.
Abraham had bosoms.
In some localities, Catholics and Protestants continued souling, candlelit processions, or ringing church bells for the dead. The Anglican Church eventually suppressed this bell ringing. Okay. Mark Donnelly, a professor of medieval archaeology, and historian Daniel Dial wrote that barns and homes were blessed to protect people and livestock from the effect of witches, who were believed to accompany the malignant spirits as they traveled to Earth.
Witches are a thing, guys. Sorcerers.
Well, it is the 1600s where they start believing in this stuff.
I'm not believing. It's actually true.
Yeah, well, they didn't kill one single witch.
That you know of.
No. Because they would drown them.
Right.
And say, if you're really a witch, then you would escape yourself. And nobody escaped themselves.
Right. And the real witches are actually doing it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
After 1605, Hallowtide was eclipsed in England by Guy Fawkes Night, which was 5th of November, which appropriated some of its customs. In England, the ending of official ceremonies related to intercession of saints led to the development of new unofficial Hallowtide customs. 18th, 19th century rural Lancashire, Catholic families gathered on hills on the night of All Hallows Eve. Okay. One held a bunch of burning straw on a pitchfork, while the rest knelt around him, praying for the souls of relatives and friends until the flames went out. This was known as Tin Lay.
All right.
So they had a guy with hay on a pitchfork burning it, and everybody's just praying to everybody.
Wow, thanks for repeating the exact same thing you just said. What are you, one of those shitty reaction channels that literally describe exactly what's happening?
Let me know in the comments.
There was a similar custom in Hertfordshire and lighting of the Tyndall fires in Derbyshire. Okay. Some suggested these Tyndalls were...
What is Shire?
Shire is like a
town,
village, right? A county.
Okay. Especially in England. It says especially in England.
Rural culture, though.
Oh. So this would be like Brantshire.
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, yeah.
It'd be like that. That's what a shire would look like.
No, that's not what...
Like a bunch of countrysides, like fucking
right.
rolling hills and shit like that. Okay. Nothing in the city.
All right, I get it.
Or it could be a shire horse.
That's a badass looking horse.
Yeah. Some suggested these Tyndalls were originally lit to guide the poor souls back to Earth. Why would you want them coming back to Earth?
Right.
In Scotland and Ireland, old All Hallowtide customs that were at odds with the Reformed teaching were not suppressed, as they were important to the life cycle and the rites of passage of local communities, and curbing them would have been difficult.
Oh, would have.
Right. These residents are like, fuck you.
Right. Parts of Italy until the 15th century, families left a meal out for the ghost relatives before leaving for church services. In the 19th century Italy, churches staged theatrical reenactments of scenes from the lives of saints on All Hallows Day, with participants represented by realistic wax figures. Oh, look at that shit. 1823, graveyard of Holy Spirit Hospital in Rome. They presented a scene in which bodies of those who recently died were arrayed around a wax statue of an angel who pointed upward towards heaven.
Creepy.
In the same country, parish priests went house to house asking for small gifts of food, which they shared among themselves throughout that night. Why did not just get together and have a freaking...
Beggars. In Spain, they continue to bake special pastries called Bones of the Holy. In Spanish, they are called Huesos de Santo, and set them on graves. Where do they just waste food? At cemeteries in Spain and France, as well as in Latin America, priests lead Christian processions and services during All Hallowtide, after which people keep an all-night vigil.
Oh.
19th century San Sebastian. There's a procession to the city cemetery at All Hallowtide, an event that drew beggars who appealed to the tender recollections of one's deceased relations and friends for sympathy.
Oh, ain't that fantastic?
Please have sympathy on me, sir.
Right. Let's take a look at the old Gaelic folk influence. Today's Halloween customs are thought to have been influenced by folk customs and beliefs from the Celtic-speaking countries, some of which are believed to have pagan roots. Jack Santino, a folklorist, he writes that there was throughout Ireland an uneasy truce existing between customs and beliefs associated with Christianity and those associated with religions that were Irish before Christianity arrived. The origins of Halloween customs are typically linked to the Gaelic festival Samhain. Samhain is one of the quarter days in the medieval Gaelic calendar and has been celebrated on the 31st of October through the 1st of November in Ireland, Scotland, and the Isle of Man.
All right. A kindred festival has been held by the Brittonic Celts called Caelan Gaeaf in Wales, Caelan Gwav in Cornwall, and Caelan Gwynf in Brittany, a name meaning the first day of winter.
Okay.
Just say that.
Right.
For the Celts, the day ended and began at sunset. Excuse me? I guess, right? Whoa.
Whoa.
The day ended and began at sunset. So once the sun's up, the day's over and a new one begins. Right. Thus, the festival begins the evening before November 1st by modern reckoning.
Okay.
Samhain is mentioned in some of the earliest Irish literature. The names have been used by historians to refer to Celtic Halloween customs up until the 19th century and are still the Gaelic and Welsh names for Halloween.
Oh,
Cool.
isn't that fantastic? Samhain marked the end of the harvest season, like I said earlier, and the beginning of winter on the darker half of the year.
This is for fucking Ireland. Nobody cares.
Irish ain't people.
No.
It was seen as a limited
Mark the end of the harvest season. Motherfuckers are only harvesting potatoes.
and tulips or something.
Maybe. No, that's like fucking
Holland.
Welsh and shit like that.
It was seen as a liminal time when the boundary between this world and the other world thinned. This meant the AOC, the spirits or fairies, could more easily come into this world and were particularly active. Most scholars see them as degraded versions of ancient gods, whose power remained active in the people's minds, even after they had been officially replaced by later religious beliefs. Oh,
Cool.
saying these people are just stupid.
Right. They were both respected and feared, with individuals often invoking the protection of God when approaching their dwellings.
Oh.
At Samhain, the IOC were appeased to ensure the people and livestock survived the winter. Offerings of food and drink or portions of the crops were left outside for them. The souls of the dead were also said to revisit their homes seeking hospitality. Places were set at the dinner table and by the fire to welcome them. The belief that the souls of the dead return home on one night of the year and must be appeased seems to have ancient origins and is found in many cultures. 19th century Ireland, candles would be lit, prayers formally offered for the souls of the dead. After this, the eating, drinking, and games would begin.
No shit, mostly drinking.
Right.
Throughout Ireland and Britain, especially in the Celtic-speaking regions, the household festivities included divination rituals and games intended to foretell one's future, especially regarding death and marriage.
Death and marriage.
Apples and nuts were often used, and customs included apple bobbing, nut roasting, scrying, or mere... What you scrying? What you scrying, boy?
What you scrying?
What you scrying for? Don't you scry tonight.
Scry me a river.
Oh, shit.
You can't hide those scrying eyes.
Shit. Scrying or mirror gazing, pouring molten lead or egg whites into water.
Molten lead.
Yeah, like if you don't have molten lead, just use egg whites.
I guess it's probably the same effect, though. It's like a lava kind of
Right.
yeah.
They also had dream interpretations and others. Special bonfires were lit, and there were rituals involving them. Their flames, smoke, and ashes were deemed to have protective and cleansing powers, like the Indians in North America.
Everywhere. In some places, torches lit from the bonfire were carried sunwise around homes and fields to protect them. It suggested that, and it burnt down whole towns, probably.
Probably.
And it suggested that the fires were kind of imitative or sympathetic magic. They mimicked the sun and held back the decay and darkness of winter.
Oh.
They were also used for divination and to ward off evil spirits,
Well,
even though
you
you're
guys want 'em.
conjuring them.
Right, idiots.
In Scotland, these bonfires and divination games were banned by the church elders in some parishes.
Like fun? No.
No. In Wales, bonfires were also lit to prevent the souls of the dead from falling to earth. Later, these bonfires kept away the devil.
Oh, jeez. I don't know what the hell they're doing.
Right.
Man, how about they keep away the mosquitoes?
Well, it's,
No, you won't. That's not even true.
sure it is. Smoke wood. Keep away any bug.
Must be around a smoky bonfire. From at least the 16th century, the festival included mumming and guising in Ireland, Scotland, and the Isle of Man, and Wales. This involved people going house to house in costume or in disguise, usually reciting verses or songs in exchange for food. It may have originally been a tradition whereby people impersonated the AOC, or the souls of the dead, and received offerings on their behalf, similar to souling. Impersonating these beings or wearing a disguise was also believed to protect oneself from them. In parts of southern Ireland, the geysers included a hobby horse. A man dressed as a lairban, which is a white mare horse, led youths house to house reciting voices, some of which had pagan overtones, in exchange for, you guessed it, food. If the household donated food, it could expect good fortune from the Makala. Not doing so would bring misfortune. Oh, no food. No food, huh?
We'll see.
Okay.
In Scotland, youths went house to house with masks, painted or blackened faces. Would often threatening to do mischief if they were not welcome.
Whoa, come on, guys.
Trick or treat, motherfucker.
Right.
F. Marion McNeil suggests that the ancient festival included people in costume representing the spirits, and that faces were marked or blackened with ashes from the sacred bonfire.
Oh, wow.
In parts of Wales, men went about dressed as fearsome beings called Gwarchad. In the late 19th and early 20th century, young people in Glamorgan and Orkney cross-dressed.
Oh.
I mean,
Guess.
they've been doing that for years.
Right. Well, elsewhere in Europe, mumming was part of other festivals. But in Celtic-speaking regions, it was particularly appropriate to a night upon which supernatural beings were said to be abroad and could be imitated or warded off by human wanderers. Cool. From at least 18th century, imitating malignant spirits led to playing and pranks in Ireland and the Scottish Highlands. Wearing costumes and playing pranks at Halloween did not spread to England until the 20th century. Wow, that late. Pranksters use hollowed-out turnips or mangelwurzels as lanterns, often carved with grotesque faces.
Awesome. By those who made them, the lanterns were variously said to represent the spirits or used to ward off evil spirits. They were common in parts of Ireland and the Scottish Highlands in the 19th century, as well as in Somerset. You can also see Punky Night, whatever that is. In the 20th century, they spread to other parts of Britain and became generally known as jack-o'-lanterns.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
All right, Headless Horseman.
Well, that was in Massachusetts, but yeah.
Probably.
Not probably. Not probably.
Oh, okay. Spread to North America. Let's see how they got the old North America. Huh? Leslie Bannatyne and Cindy Ott, they write that Anglican colonists in the southern United States and Catholic colonists in Maryland recognize All Hallows Eve in their church calendars, although the Puritans of New England strongly oppose this holiday, along with other traditional celebrations of established church, including Christmas. Yeah, the Puritans do there. Almanacs of the late 18th century and early 19th century give no indication that Halloween was widely celebrated in North America.
Well, it was not until after mass Irish and Scottish immigration in the 19th century that Halloween became a major holiday in America.
They're like, we're about to bring some fun to Boston, baby.
Right. Most American Halloween traditions were inherited from the Irish and Scots, though in Cajun areas, a nocturnal mass was said in cemeteries on Halloween night. Candles that had been blessed were placed on graves, and families sometimes spent the entire night at the graveside. Originally confined to these immigrant communities, it was gradually assimilated into mainstream society and was celebrated coast to coast by people of all social, racial, and religious backgrounds by the early 20th century. Then, through American influence, these Halloween traditions spread to many other countries by the late 20th and 21st century, including to mainland Europe and some parts of the Far East.
Oh, Far East. Cool. Let's take a look at symbols of the old Halloween. Development of artifacts and symbols associated with Halloween formed over time, obviously, as everything does. Oh, jack-o'-lanterns are traditionally carried by geysers on All Hallows Eve in order to frighten off evil spirits. There's a popular Irish Christian folktale associated with the jack-o'-lantern, which in folklore is said to represent a soul who has been denied entry in both heaven and hell. Like, nah, man, you weren't good enough to get here, and you weren't bad enough to go there. En route home after a night's drinking, Jack encounters the devil, tricks him into climbing a tree. A quick-thinking Jack etches the sign of cross into the bark, thus trapping the devil. Jack strikes a bargain that Satan can never claim his soul. After a life of sin, drunkenness, and mendacity, Jack is refused entry to heaven when he dies. Keeping his promise, the devil refuses to let Jack into hell and throws a live coal straight from the fires of hell at him. It's like, you son of a bitch, get the hell out of here! It was a cold night, so Jack places the coal in a hollowed-out turnip to stop it from going out. Since which time Jack and his lantern have been roaming, looking for a place to rest.
Well, good for you, bud.
Wow, hell of a story.
Right. In Ireland and Scotland, the turnip has traditionally been carved during Halloween, but immigrants to North America used the native pumpkin, which is both much softer and much larger, making it easier to carve than a turnip.
Yes.
The American tradition of carving pumpkins is recorded in 1837 and was originally associated with harvest time in general, not becoming specifically associated with Halloween until the mid to late 19th century.
Right. I get it. Modern imagery of Halloween comes from many sources, including Christian eschatology, national customs, works of Gothic and horror literature, such as the novels of Frankenstein or the modern Prometheus, and Dracula, the modern Prometheus. Classic horror films such as Frankenstein 1931, The Mummy 1932 as well. Imagery of the skull, a reference to Golgotha, in the Christian tradition, serves as a reminder of death and the transitory quality of human life, and is consequently found in the Memento Mori and Vanitas compositions, whatever those are. Skulls have therefore been commonplace in Halloween, which touches on this theme.
All right. Traditionally, the back walls of churches are decorated with a depiction of the Last Judgment,
Yep.
complete with graves opening and the dead rising, with a heaven filled with angels and a hell filled with devils.
Right.
A motive that has permeated the observance of the Triduum. Triduum. One of the earliest works on the subject of Halloween is from Scottish poet John Mayne, who, 1780, made note of pranks at Halloween. He says, "What fearful pranks ensue?" As well as the supernatural associated with the night, boggles, who are ghosts, influencing Robert Burns' Halloween in 1785.
Oh, shit.
This is Halloween.
Fantastic. Elements of the autumn season, such as pumpkins, corn husks, scarecrows, are also prevalent. Homes are often decorated with these types of symbols around Halloween. Halloween imagery includes themes of death, evil, mythical monsters. Black cats, which have been long associated with witches, are also a common symbol of Halloween. Black, orange, sometimes purple are Halloween's traditional colors. I've never seen purple.
Purple always.
Purple?
Yes.
What's purple?
Purple. Smells good.
I guess. With black?
Let's take a look at trick-or-treating and guising. Well, you can take a look at the main article, which is trick-or-treated. Trick-or-treating is a customary celebration for the children on Halloween. Children go in costume from house to house, asking for treats such as candy or sometimes money, with the question, trick-or-treat? The word trick implies a threat to perform mischief on the homeowners or their property if no treat is given. The practice is said to have roots in the medieval practice of mumming, which is closely related to souling.
Right.
John Pym wrote that many of the feast days associated with the presentation of mumming plays were celebrated by the Christian church. These feast days included All Hallows Eve, Christmas, Twelfth Night, and Shrove Tuesday.
Oh.
What you doing Shrove Tuesday, man?
Right.
Mumming practice in Germany, Scandinavia, and other parts of Europe involved masked persons in fancy dress who paraded the streets and entered houses to dance or play dice in silence.
Whoa. Play dice in silence, huh?
Oh, just entering people's houses, too. Huh?
Right. Wow. In England, from the medieval period up until the 1930s, damn, people practiced the Christian custom of souling on Halloween, which involved groups of soulers, both Protestant and Catholic, going from parish to parish, begging the rich for soul cakes in exchange for praying for the souls of the givers and their friends. In the old Philippines, the practice of souling is called pangang-a-lang-lang, pang-pang-dang-ling-dang.
Pangang-a-lulua.
Pangangalalua, and is practiced on All Hallows Eve among children in rural areas. They don't do it in the city. Not those urbans. People drape themselves in white cloths to represent souls, and then visit houses where they sing in return for prayers and sweets.
All right. Scotland, Ireland, guising, children disguised in costume going from door to door for food or coins, is a traditional Halloween custom. It is recorded in Scotland at Halloween in 1895, where masqueraders in disguise carrying lanterns made out of scooped out turnips
Yes, we do.
visit homes to be rewarded with cakes, fruit, and money. Fruit cakes. In Ireland, the most
money?
Yeah, man. In Ireland, the most popular phrase for kids to shout until the 2000s was "Help the Halloween party." The practice of guys in a Halloween in North America was first
Until the
recorded.
2000s? Wow.
They probably say trick or treat now. Everybody, it's a global thing now.
Right.
The practice of guys in a Halloween in North America was first recorded in 1911, where a newspaper in Kingston, Ontario, in Canada, reported children going guising around the neighborhood.
No shit.
Right.
I expect it to be in Canada. American historian and author Ruth Edna Kelly of Massachusetts wrote in the first book-length history of Halloween in the United States. Oh, she wrote the first book-length history of Halloween. The book of Halloween with the, what do they call it? Apostrophe? Between the two E's, guys. Crazy stuff. She did that in 1919 and references souling in the chapter Halloween in America. In her book, Kelly touches on customs that arrived from across the Atlantic. She says Americans have fostered them and are making this on occasion, and are making this on occasion something like what it must have been in the best days overseas. All Halloween customs in the United States are borrowed directly or adapted from those of other countries, just like everything else. While the first reference to guising in North America occurs in 1911, another reference to ritual begging on Halloween appears in a place unknown in 1915. With a third,
Damn, dude. A lot of wrestlers from that place.
right,
Parts unknown, I guess.
right. With a third reference in Chicago in 1920. The earliest known use in print of the term trick or treat appears in 1927 in the Blackie Herald of Alberta, Canada.
No. Must have been Trudeau's ancestors.
Right.
The thousands of Halloween postcards produced between the turn of the 20th century and the 1920s, that is, commonly show children but not trick-or-treating. Trick-or-treating does not seem to have become a widespread practice in North America until the 30s, with the first U.S. appearances of the term in 1934. Wow, so it was 7 years after Canada.
Right.
And the first use of national publication occurred in 1939. A popular variant of trick-or-treating, known as trunk-or-treating, or Halloween tailgating, occurs when children are offered treats from the trunks of cars parked in church parking lot, or sometimes a school parking lot.
Or sometimes a park in the middle of the...
Or sometimes in the middle of the road.
Right.
With, in a white van.
Right. In a trunk-or-treat event, the trunk of each automobile is decorated with a certain theme, such as those of children's literature, movies, scripture, and job roles. Okay. Trunk-or-treating has grown in popularity due to its perception as being more safe than going door to door.
Or because this culture nowadays are fucking pussies.
Right. A point that resonates well with parents, as well as the fact that it solves a world conundrum in which homes are built a half-mile apart. I mean, I can see that.
Right. Yeah.
Out in the
when
country.
you're living in the middle of nowhere, but when you're living in the damn city,
Right.
when you're got literally 700 houses in a
Right.
0.2 mile radius.
Right.
What the fuck are you doing a trunk or treat for?
If you're in a rural area, you definitely...
That's fine. Or go to the near city like people around here do.
Or you can just rent a bunch of porta potties and set them up in a park and knock on a door and somebody's standing and open it up and give you candy and you go to the next one.
That would be a trunk or treat. Why would you rent a bunch of porta potties?
I mean, at least you'd be knocking on a door.
That's disgusting. Taking candy from a fucking
Bob
toilet.
for apples in the porta potty.
Don't worry about that. The blue will come off.
Bob for blue balls.
Bob for blabbles. Let's take a look at costumes. You can also look at the main article, which is Halloween costume.
No.
Halloween costumes were traditionally modeled after figures such as vamps, ghosts, skeletons, scary-looking witches, and devils. Over time, the costume selection extended to include popular characters from fiction, celebrities, and generic archetypes, such as ninjas and princesses. Dressing up as costumes and going guisin was prevalent in Scotland and Ireland at Halloween by the late 19th century. A Scottish term, the tradition is called guising because of the disguises or costumes worn by the children. In Ireland and Scotland, the masks are known as false faces, a term recorded in Ayr, Scotland in 1890 by a Scot describing geysers. He says, I had mind it was Halloween. The wee Collins, or boys, ran it already. Renning a boot with their false faces on and their bits o' turnip lanterns in their hawn. All right.
Stupid. Costuming became popular for Halloween parties in the United States in the early 20th century, as often for adults as for children. And when trick-or-treating was becoming popular in Canada and the United States in the 20s and 30s, Eddie J. Smith, and costumes became popular when trick-or-treating came around in the 20s and 30s. Eddie J. Smith, in his book Halloween, Hallowed is Thy Name. It offers a religious perspective to the wearing of costumes on All Hallows Eve, suggesting that by dressing up as creatures who at one time caused us to fear and tremble, people are able to poke fun at Satan, whose kingdom has been plundered by our Savior. Images of skeletons and the dead are traditional decorations used during Halloween.
Trick or Treat for UNICEF.
Oh, never.
Is a fundraising program to support UNICEF, a United Nations program that provides humanitarian aid to children in developing countries.
Do they?
Started as a local event in Northeast Philadelphia neighborhood in 1950 and expanded nationally in 1952. The program involves the distribution of small boxes by schools to trick-or-treaters in which they can solicit small change donations from the houses they visit.
Oh, fantastic.
It is estimated that children have collected more than $118 million for UNICEF since its inception.
Oh.
That's a lot of money in pennies.
Right.
Primarily, I'm assuming. And in Canada, 2006, UNICEF decided to discontinue their Halloween collection boxes, citing safety and administrative concerns. After consultation with schools, they instead redesigned the program.
Well, you could have done
What
that.
the fuck is safety about it? Was people getting robbed? I bet you fucking... Right. If that's not a target, carrying around a fucking box full of money.
You ain't kidding. Yearly New York's Village Halloween Parade, begun in 1974, is the world's largest Halloween parade and America's only major nighttime parade, attracting more than 60,000 costume participants, 2 million spectators, and a worldwide television audience.
Never heard of it.
Right. Since the late 2010s, ethnic stereotypes as costumes have increasingly come under scrutiny in the U.S. Pussies.
Can't dress as Indians. Can't dress as...
Such and other potentially offensive costumes have been met with increasingly public disapproval. Get that.
All right, let's take a look at some costumes for pets.
Oh, jeez.
Never do that. According to 2018 report from the National Retail Federation, 30 million Americans will spend an estimated $480 million on Halloween costumes for their pets in 2018.
That is stupid.
This is up from an estimated $200 million in 2010.
Wow.
The most popular costumes for pets are the pumpkin, followed by the hot dog, and the bumblebee in third place. Oh, so I mean, some of them are hilarious, though.
Right. Jeez.
But they're only meant for little dogs.
Right. Games and other activities. There are several games traditionally associated with Halloween. Some of these games originated as divination rituals or ways of foretelling one's future, especially regarding death, marriage, and children. During the Middle Ages, these rituals were done by a rare few in rural communities as they were considered to be deadly serious practices. Recent centuries, these divinations games have been a common feature of the household festivities in Ireland and Britain. They often involve apples and hazelnuts. Celtic mythology, apples were strongly associated with the otherworld and immortality, while hazelnuts were associated with divine wisdom. Some also suggest that they derive from Roman practice and celebration of Pomona.
All right, the following activities were a common feature of Halloween in Ireland and Britain during the 17th to 20th centuries. Some have become more widespread and continue to be popular today. One common game is apple bobbing, or dunking, which may be called duking in Scotland, in which apples float in a tub or a large basin of water, and the participants must use only their teeth to remove an apple from the basin.
That's hard.
A variant of dunking involves kneeling on a chair, holding a fork between the teeth, and trying to drive the fork into an apple. Oh, just fucking drive it down your throat.
Never going to happen.
Who'd bite metal anyways, idiots?
Right.
Another common game involves hanging up treacle or syrup-coated scones by strings. These must be eaten without using hands while they remain attached to the string, an activity that inevitably leads to a sticky face.
I bet it does.
Another once popular game involves hanging... I know another activity that leads to a sticky face. Another once popular game involves hanging a small wooden rod from the ceiling at head height with a lit candle on one end and an apple hanging from the other. The rod is spun around and everyone takes turns trying to catch the apple with their teeth. You don't fucking burn your face.
Right. Several of the traditional activities from Ireland and Britain involve foretelling one's future partner or spouse. An apple would be peeled in one long strip, then the peel tossed over the shoulder. The peel is believed to land in the shape of the first letter of the future spouse's name. 2 hazelnuts would be roasted near a fire, one named for the person roasting them, and the other for the person they desire. If the nuts jump away from the heat, it is a bad sign. But if the nuts roast quietly, it foretells a good match. A salty oatmeal bannock would be baked. The person would eat it in 3 bites, and then go to bed in silence without anything to drink. Holy shit.
That's fucking...
I'm not doing that.
Doesn't sound like a good time at all.
No.
Go to bed in silence. Just fucking turn out the lights.
Mouth is all dry. I can't anything to drink.
Jeez, this is said to result in a dream in which their future spouse offers them a drink to quench their thirst. Oh, so if you don't have a spouse, then you're not quenched.
Oh, wow.
Unmarried women were told that if they sat in a darkened room and gazed into a mirror on a Halloween night, the face of their future husband would appear in the mirror. That's fucking creepy. The custom was widespread enough to be commemorated on greeting cards from the late 19th century and early 20th century. Another popular Irish game was known as Buassini, which is blindfolds, which a person would be blindfolded and then would choose between several saucers.
Wow. Well, the item in the saucer would provide a hint as to their future. A ring would mean that they would marry soon. Clay in the saucer would mean that they would die soon, perhaps within the year. Water would mean that they would emigrate. What's that? Move. Rosary beads would mean that they would take holy orders. They would become a nun, priest, a monk, or something like that. A coin would mean that they would become rich. You get yourself a little bean, that would mean they would be poor. The game features prominently in the James Joyce short story Clay, 1914. In Ireland and Scotland, items would be hidden in food, usually a cake. You had barmbrack, cranachan, champ, or colcannon, and portions of it served out at random. A person's future would be foretold by the item they happened to find. For example, a ring meant marriage and a coin meant wealth, obviously.
Well, up until the 19th century, the Halloween bonfires were also used for divination in parts of Scotland, Wales, Brittany. When the fire died down, a ring of stones would be laid in the ashes, one for each person. In the morning, if any stone was mislaid, it was said that that person it represented would not live out the year. Oh. Telling ghost stories, listening to Halloween-themed songs, and watching horror films are common fixtures of Halloween parties. He did the monster mash. Episodes of television series and Halloween-themed specials, with the specials usually aimed at children, are commonly aired on or before Halloween, while new horror films are often released before Halloween to take advantage of the holiday. Or, in this case, podcast episodes.
Right. Haunted attractions. Haunted attractions are entertainment venues designed to thrill and scare patrons. Most attractions are seasonal Halloween businesses that may include haunted houses, corn mazes, and hayrides. And the level of sophistication of the effects has risen as the industry has grown. The first recorded purpose-built haunted attraction was the Orton and Spooner Ghost House, opened in 1915 in Liphook, England. Liphook. The attraction actually most closely resembles a carnival funhouse powered by steam. The house still exists this very day in the Hollycomb Steam Collection.
Good for them.
Fantastic.
It was during the 30s, about the same time as trick-or-treating, that Halloween-themed haunted houses first began to appear in America. Oh. It was late in the 50s that haunted houses as a major attraction began to appear, focusing first on California.
Of course.
Sponsored by the Children's Health Home Junior Auxiliary, the San Mateo Haunted House opened in 1957. The San Bernardino Assistance League Haunted House opened in 1958. Home haunts began appearing across the country during 1962 and 63. In 64, the San Mateo Haunted House opened, as well as the Children's Museum Haunted House in Indianapolis.
Oh, ain't that great. Haunted house as an American culture icon can be attributed to the opening of the Haunted Mansion in Disneyland on the 12th of August, 1969. Knott's Berry Farm began hosting this Halloween night attraction. Knott's Scary Farm, which opened in 1973.
Good for you, buds.
Right. Evangelical Christians adopted a form of these attractions by opening one of the first hell houses in 1972. The first Halloween haunted house, run by a nonprofit organization, was produced in 1970 by the Sycamore Deer Park Jaycees in Clifton, Ohio. It was co-sponsored by WSAI, an AM radio station broadcasting out of Cincinnati, Ohio.
All right. It was last produced in 1982, though. Other Jaycees followed suit with their own versions after the success of the Ohio House. The March of Dimes copyrighted a mini haunted house for the March of Dimes in 1976 and began fundraising through their local chapters by conducting haunted houses soon after.
Of course they did.
Although they apparently quit supporting this type of event nationally sometime in the 80s, some March of Dimes haunted houses have persisted until this very day.
I mean, why not? Evening of 11th of May, 1984, Jackson Township, New Jersey. The haunted castle of Six Flags Great Adventure caught fire. As a result of the fire, 8 teenagers perished.
Damn.
The backlash to the tragedy was a tightening of regulations relating to safety, building codes, and the frequency of inspections of attractions nationwide. The smaller venues, especially the nonprofit attractions, were unable to compete financially, and the better-funded commercial enterprises filled the vacuum.
And it's usually happened. Facilities that were once able to avoid regulation because they were considered to be temporary installations now had to adhere to the stricter codes required of permanent attractions.
Oh, you can't kill children accidentally.
Right. In the late 80s and early 90s, theme parks entered the business seriously. Six Flags Fright Fest began in 1986, and Universal Studios Florida began Halloween Horror Nights in 91.
Oh, shit.
Knott's Scary Farm experienced a surge in attendance in the 90s as a result of America's obsession with Halloween as a cultural event.
Dude, it did. 90s, it really flew up.
Theme parks have played a major role in globalizing the holiday. Universal Studios Singapore and Universal Studios Japan both participate, while Disney now mounts Mickey's Not-So-Scary Halloween party events at its parks in Paris, Hong Kong, and Tokyo, as well as in the United States.
Fantastic.
The theme park haunts are by far the largest both in scale and attendance.
I bet they are. Take a look at the old food. All Hallow Eve. Many Western Christian denominations encourage abstinence from meat, giving rise to a variety of vegetarian foods associated with this day. Because in Northern Hemisphere, Halloween comes in the wake of the yearly apple harvest, candy apples, known as toffee apples outside America, caramel apples, or taffy apples, are common Halloween treats made by rolling whole apples in a sticky sugar syrup, sometimes followed by rolling them in nuts. At one time, candy apples were commonly given to trick-or-treating children, But the practice rapidly waned in the wake of widespread rumors that some individuals were embedding items like pins and razor blades in the apples in the United States. And they did.
Well, there's evidence of such incidents, though,
Yes.
relative to the degree of reporting of such cases. Actual cases involving malicious acts are extremely rare and have never resulted in serious injury. Nonetheless, many parents assume that such heinous practices were rampant because of the mass media.
Like homemade popcorn balls, too. Used to get those all the time.
Delicious. At the peak of the hysteria, some hospitals offered free x-rays of children's Halloween halls in order to find evidence of tampering.
That's true.
Virtually all of the few known candy poisoning incidents involved parents who poisoned their own children's candy.
Yes.
As in the...
Not too long ago. Wasn't this a couple of years ago somebody did that?
we have a show for Outlaws and Gunslingers that we're eventually going to do, but Dad poisoned his sons and his friends' pixie sticks with fucking like cyanide. And
Oh my god!
I think his son and one other kid died or something.
What a piece of shit!
Right.
My goodness, one custom that
That's where the myth of the pixie sticks were poisoned all the time, or like all that shit. Yeah.
Right. One custom that persists in modern day Ireland is the baking of a barmbrack, which is a light fruitcake, into which a plain ring or coin and other charms are placed before baking. It is considered fortunate to be the lucky one who finds it. It has also been said that those who get a ring will find their true love. We know this. True love within the year. This is similar to the tradition of king cake at the Festival of Epiphany. Halloween-themed foods are also produced by companies in the lead up to the night. For example, Cadbury released goo heads, similar to cream eggs and spooky wrapping. I didn't know that.
Me neither. Lists of foods associated with Halloween are barmbrack in Ireland, bonfire toffee in Great Britain, candy apples or toffee apples in Great Britain and Ireland, candy apples, candy corn, candy pumpkins in North America, chocolate, monkey nuts, peanuts in their shells in Ireland and Scotland.
Called monkey nuts?
I guess caramel apples, caramel corn, Kalkinen, Halloween cake, sweets or candy, novelty candy shaped like skulls, pumpkins, bats, worms, etc. Roasted pumpkin seeds, roasted sweet corn, soul cakes, pumpkin pie.
Fantastic. Let's take a look at the Christians and what they do. On Halloween, which is All Hallows Eve, in Poland, believers were once taught to pray out loud as they walked through the forests in order that the souls of the dead might find comfort. In Spain, Christian priests in tiny villages tolled their church bells in order to remind their congregants to remember the dead on All Hallows Eve. In Old Ireland, among immigrants in Canada, a custom includes the Christian practice of abstinence, keeping All Hallows Eve as a meat-free day and serving pancakes or colcannon instead.
Ain't no women getting that meat.
In Mexico, children make an altar to invite the return of the spirits of dead children.
Okay. Angelitos. The Christian church traditionally observed Halloween through a vigil. Worshippers prepared themselves for feasting on the following All Saints' Day with prayers and fasting. Church service is known as the Vigil of All Hallows or the Vigil of All Saints. An initiative known as a Night of Light seeks to further spread the Vigil of All Hallows throughout Christendom. After the service, suitable festivities and entertainments often follow, as well as a visit to the graveyard or cemetery where flowers and candles are often placed in preparation for All Hallows Day. Oh. In Finland, because so many people visit the cemeteries on All Hallows Eve to light votive candles there, they are known as Valamere, or Seas of Light.
Oh, that's fantastic. Today, Christian attitudes towards Halloween are diverse. In the Anglican...
Well, you got the attitude towards Halloween.
Right. In the Anglican church, some dioceses have chosen to emphasize the Christian traditions associated with All Hallows Eve. Some of these practices include praying, fasting, and attending worship services. O Lord our God, increase, we pray thee, and multiply upon us the gifts of thy grace, that we, who do prevent the glorious festival of all thy saints, may of thee be enabled joyfully to follow them in all virtuous and godly living. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, who liveth and reigneth with thee, in the unity of the Holy Ghost, ever one God, world without end. Amen. That was a collect of the Vigil of the All Saints from the Anglican Breviary.
Other Protestant Christians also celebrate All Hallows Eve as Reformation Day, a day to remember the Protestant Reformation alongside All Hallows Eve or independently from it. This is because Martin Luther is said to have nailed his 95 Theses to All Saints Church in Wittenberg on All Hallows Eve.
Really?
Often, harvest festivals or Reformation festivals are held on All Hallows Eve, in which children dress up as Bible characters or reformers.
No.
Reformers. In addition to distributing candy to children who are trick-or-treating on Halloween, many Christians also provide gospel tracts to them. Well, sure they appreciate that.
Right.
One organization, the American Tract Society, stated that around 3 million gospel tracts are ordered from them alone for Halloween celebrations. Others order Halloween-themed scripture candy to pass out to children on this day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fantastic. Some Christians feel constrained about the modern celebration of Halloween because they feel it trivializes or celebrates paganism, the occult, or other practices and cultural phenomena deemed incompatible with their beliefs. They're like, still evil. Father Gabriel Amorth, an exorcist in Rome, he said, if English and American children like to dress up as witches and devils on one night of the year, that is not a problem. If it is just a game, there is no harm in that.
Good for you, exorcist.
Right. In more recent years, the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Boston has organized a Saint Fest on Halloween.
Good for you. Similarly, many contemporary Protestant churches view Halloween as a fun event for the children, holding events in their churches where children and their parents can dress up, play games, and get candy for free. Aww. To these Christians, Halloween holds no threat to the spiritual lives of children, being taught about death and mortality and the ways of the Celtic ancestors actually being a valuable life lesson and a part of many of their parishioners' heritage. Christian minister Sam Potaro wrote that Halloween is about using humor and ridicule to confront the power of death.
Fantastic. In the Roman Catholic Church, Halloween's Christian connection is acknowledged, and Halloween celebrations are common in many Catholic parochial schools, such as in the United States, while schools throughout Ireland also close for the Halloween break. Mm-hmm. Wow. Many fundamentalist and evangelical churches use hell houses and comic-style tracts in order to make use of the Halloween's popularity as an opportunity for evangelism. Others consider Halloween to be completely incompatible with the Christian faith due to its putative origins in the Festival of the Dead celebration. You evil bastards.
Right, indeed.
Even though Eastern Orthodox Christians observe All Hallows Day, the first Sunday after Pentecost, Eastern Orthodox Church recommends the observance of Vespers or Paraclesis on the Western observance of All Hallows Eve, out of the pastoral need to provide an alternative to popular celebrations.
All right, let's take a look at an analogous celebrations and perspectives. First up, Judaism. Mm-hmm. The main article for this category is Jews and Halloween.
All right.
According to Alfred Kolach, in the second Jewish book of Y, in Judaism, Halloween is not permitted by Jewish halakha because it violates Leviticus 18:3, which forbids Jews from partaking in Gentile customs. Many Jews observe Yizkor communally 4 times a year, which is vaguely similar to the observance of All Hallowtide in Christianity, in the sense that prayers are said for both martyrs and for one's own family.
Oh, fantastic. Look at you guys doing good stuff there, huh? Oh, nevertheless, many American Jews celebrate Halloween anyway, disconnected from its Christian origins. Reform Rabbi Jeffrey Goldwasser has said that there is no religious reason why contemporary Jews should not celebrate Halloween, while Orthodox Rabbi Michael Broyd has argued against Jews observing the holiday. Purim has sometimes been compared to Halloween, in part due to some observants wearing costumes, especially of biblical figures described in the Purim narrative.
Let's take a look at Islam. Sheikh Idris Palmer, author of a brief illustrated guide to understanding Islam, has ruled that Muslims should not participate in Halloween, stating that participation in Halloween is worse than participation in Christmas, Easter. It is more sinful than congratulating the Christians for their prostration to the crucifix. It has also been ruled to be haram by the National Fatwa Council of Malaysia because of its alleged pagan roots, stating Halloween is celebrated using a humorous theme mixed with horror to entertain and resist the spirit of death that influence humans. Dar al-Ifta al-Misriya disagrees, provided the celebration is not referred to as an Eid and that behavior remains in line with Islamic principles.
Right. I mean, come on, man. Have a little fun.
Right.
Hinduism. Ooh, you know, these guys ain't going to like it. Hindus remember the dead during the festival of Pitru Pashka, during which Hindus pay homage to and perform a ceremony to keep the souls of their ancestors at rest. At rest. They don't want them to come back.
Right.
It is celebrated in the Hindu month of Bhadrapada, usually in mid-September. The celebration of the Hindu festival Diwali.
It's time for Diwali.
Sometimes conflicts with the date of Halloween, but some Hindus choose to participate in the popular customs of Halloween. Oh, good. Other Hindus, such as Somya Dasgupta, have opposed a celebration on the grounds that Western holidays like Halloween have begun to adversely affect our indigenous festivals. Like they're taking our culture.
All right, let's take a look at neo-paganism. There's no consistent rule or view on Halloween amongst those who describe themselves as neo-pagans or Wiccans. Some neo-pagans do not observe Halloween, but instead observe Samhain.
Because it's Halloween every day of the year for these bastards.
Right, on the 1st of November, some neo-pagans do enjoy Halloween festivities, stating that one can observe both the solemnity of Samhain in addition to the fun of Halloween. Some neo-pagans are opposed to the celebration of Halloween, stating that it trivializes Samhain and avoid Halloween because of the interruptions from trick-or-treaters. I'm stirring my witch's brew.
The Manitoban writes that Wiccans don't officially celebrate Halloween, despite the fact that the 31st of October will still have a star beside it in any good Wiccan's day planner. Starting at sundown, Wiccans celebrate a holiday known as Samhain. Samhain actually comes from old Celtic traditions, which we said earlier, and is not exclusive to neo-pagan religions like Wicca. While the traditions of this holiday originate in Celtic countries, modern-day Wiccans don't try to historically replicate Samhain celebrations. Some traditional Samhain rituals are still practiced, though, but at its core, the period is treated as a time to celebrate darkness and the dead. A possible reason why Samhain can be confused with Halloween celebrations altogether.
All right, let's take a look at some geography of Halloween.
Oh, jeez.
The traditions and importance of Halloween vary greatly among countries that observe it. Scotland, Ireland, traditional Halloween customs include, you guessed it, children dressing up in costume going guising, holding parties, while other practices in Ireland include lighting bonfires and having fireworks. In Brittany, children would play practical jokes by setting candles inside skulls and graveyards to frighten visitors. Mass transatlantic immigration in the 19th century popularized Halloween in North America, and celebration in the United States and Canada has had a significant impact on how the event is absorbed in other nations.
Well, this larger North American influence, particularly in iconic and commercial elements, has extended to places such as Brazil, Ecuador, Chile. Is it Chile or Chile? Chile, Australia, New Zealand, which is basically Australia, right? No. Most continental Europe, Finland, Japan, and other parts of Asia, East Asia.
Cool.
According to the National Retail Federation, Americans are expected to spend $12.2 billion on Halloween in 2023, up from $10.6 billion in 2022. Of this amount, $3.9 billion is projected to be spent on home decorations, up to $2.7 billion in 2019. The popularity of Halloween decorations has been growing in recent years, with retailers offering a wider range of increasingly elaborate and oversized decoration.
Yeah.
Well, you see them everywhere nowadays.
Those fucking huge-ass 20-foot tall, 13-foot tall skeletons and shit.
It's stupid.
Yeah.
$2.7 billion.
Billion.
That's why
Billion.
places like Halloween USA can only be open for 3 months out of the year and make
Billions.
ridiculous.
$100 billion.
They're like, when you're going to rent this whole building for a whole year and only use it for 3 months? How can you afford that? He goes, trust me.
I doubt they rent it for the whole year. But
They have to. Halloween USA, you ever seen those places?
Spirit Halloween, you mean? I don't know. I guess we'll spin the wheel because I don't think there's any other anniversaries or stuff coming up besides Thanksgiving in a couple of weeks. But we'll do one on that, I'm assuming. But let's see. Maybe if I can't find nothing, this will be our backup. I don't know, guys. Maybe we'll do the Flying Spaghetti Monster next week. I'm sure I can find something that's a
This wheel thing's not working out.
no. Sure I can find something that's significant, like an anniversary or something. I'm sure there's something. Well, whatever. With that being said, go check out our YouTube at Bang Dang Network. Give us a subscription, and you get full episodes, clips, shorts, and as well as our exclusive Dart League, as well as if you're listening on podcasts, Apple or Spotify, give us a review.
In season 3, and there's 7.
There is 7, 8.
8.
Yeah, we'll be back next week for more Quarter Wikipedia. We're going to love with.